I woke up to the sound of a champagne cork popping, and I live alone. At least, I did for the last 4 days. My wife, Layla, had left for what she claimed was a restorative coastal retreat. Her exact words. She packed more makeup than medicine and forgot her anxiety pills, but triple-checked her tripod. The cork snap echoed through the baby monitor I secretly left plugged in behind the living room mirror. I didn't even know I could feel my soul leave my body until that moment. Let me back up just 12 hours. I had just come back from getting my car's brake pads changed. On the receipt was a smiley face from the cashier. Apparently, I looked like someone who needs cheering up. She wasn't wrong. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. And spotless. Not clean spotless, but the kind of sterile cold you get when someone is actively preparing to pretend you never existed. Layla had messaged me earlier. Made it to the coast. No signal. Don't worry if I go silent. She posted that on Instagram. No signal, my foot. And then came the real. I don't follow her with my main account anymore. A decision I made 6 months ago to keep my sanity. But my burner account, which has no followers and a fake name, pinged me a notification. The thumbnail was enough. Her, glowing. Sun-kissed. Bikini. Cocktail. Him, Colby. Smirking like he paid the rent. Holding up a peace sign. Shirtless and oily. With his hand on her lower back. Caption. When your soul feels seen, clinking glasses, water wave sparkles, #retreat vibes, #healing energy. I had to reread it 5 times because I thought maybe I was hallucinating. Healing energy? What about the ultimatum I gave her 5 days ago? Let me be crystal clear. I wasn't controlling. I wasn't angry. I was desperate. I said, if you go on this trip with him, Layla, I swear to everything, I won't be waiting when you get back. I mean it. She just blinked and said, don't be dramatic, Renly. Yeah, Renly. That's my name. Ridiculous, I know. Sounds like a scented candle. It doesn't matter. What matters is she chose to go. And now, I'm sitting in our living room with a blanket that still smells like her coconut conditioner, watching my wife's restorative retreat play out like a betrayal documentary in real time. My stomach flipped. I didn't eat. I didn't blink. I didn't breathe until the next video autoplayed. This one was a boomerang. Her legs in the air. Him holding her ankles playfully. A giggle echoing in the background like a hammer to my chest. And then I remembered. I had set up a baby monitor camera the day before she left, hidden in an unplugged smart speaker shell. It had motion detection. It was sending clips to my email. I scrambled for my laptop. The video attached to the latest alert was dark and grainy, but the sound was unmistakable. 2 glasses clinked. A pop. Then her laugh. Not the polite office laugh. Not the I love you laugh. But the laugh. The one she used before she ever met me, when she was free and reckless and didn't know I existed. And then, a male voice. Deeper. Familiar. To new beginnings, it said. I slammed the laptop shut. New beginnings. She wasn't just gone. She was already starting over. I didn't sleep that night. I tried. Twice. Once on the couch and once in the bed we used to share, but both places felt like they were mocking me. Everything in the apartment was too clean, too quiet, too still, like it had been evacuated after some emotional radiation leak. I kept expecting to hear her voice calling out from the hallway, laughing about how she left her charger again, or asking if we had oat milk. But there was nothing. Just the occasional buzz of the fridge and the faint hum of the world moving on without me. At around 2:40 a.m., I found myself standing in the kitchen in my robe, staring at the bottle of wine we bought last anniversary. We'd said we'd save it for something special. A promotion. A baby. A trip to Florence. I opened it with a steak knife because the corkscrew was gone. I realized later she'd probably packed it. It wouldn't have been the first thing she took that belonged to both of us. I drank straight from the bottle. I'm not proud of it, but I felt like if I didn't pour something into myself, I'd collapse and disappear. Somewhere around the 3rd gulp, I heard a ding from my laptop. New email. It was a security alert from the cloud storage account we shared, the one we used for backups, receipts, vet bills, and for a while, a folder called Little Things, where we used to drop cute notes, voice memos, pictures of silly things we saw on the street. I hadn't opened that folder in months. But this notification wasn't from that. It was from a folder she created 3 days ago, titled simply, Cult Retreat Raw. I clicked it like my hands weren't even attached to my body. It was pure reflex. What loaded made my stomach twist into a sailor's knot. Photos. Dozens of them. Some blurry, some high quality, all with him. Her. Poolside. Laughter. Drinks. Yoga poses at sunset. One of her on his shoulders in the ocean. Another, kissing his cheek. The kind of kiss that isn't casual. The kind that says you belong to me now. There were no filters. No hashtags. These weren't for social media. These were for keeps. I don't remember closing the tab. I just remember sitting there, staring at the browser, hearing my heart pounding like it was trying to escape my chest. I started breathing weird. Like hiccups. I thought I was crying, but I wasn't. It was worse. I was blank. My body was reacting before my brain could keep up. My face was wet, and I didn't know when the tears had started. And then came the final nail. One photo, uploaded just 20 minutes before. It was her in my hoodie. The old gray one with the broken zipper that she used to steal because it smelled like comfort. She was wearing it while curled up next to Colt on a balcony chair. Sunset in the background. Her head on his chest. Her hand on his thigh. And he was smiling straight into the camera. That was the moment I stopped feeling sad. Grief was gone. Shock had dissolved. What came next was calculation. I opened the shared budgeting spreadsheet. She hadn't touched it in months, but I had. I was the one who tracked our subscriptions, rent splits, and savings goals. I pulled up the tab for emergency cash. She never looked there, never cared about the little things like how our money moved behind the scenes. But I did. And just like that, I transferred my half into a personal account I opened 2 months ago when I first started suspecting she was slipping away. Not because I planned on leaving, just because I needed to know I could, if I had to. I turned off her access to our cloud backups, unlinked her laptop from the router, revoked her login to our grocery app, meal kit subscription, and the vet portal. She wouldn't be needing any of those. Not anymore. Then I packed a suitcase. Not to run away. Not to hide. But because she thought I was going to stay here, mourning, scrolling, crying into couch cushions. She thought I'd wait. She had no idea what I'd been planning while she was off having her healing moment. She went on her little retreat. But I was about to give her a return she'd never forget. I left before sunrise. I packed what I needed, my documents, my laptop, 2 changes of clothes, my backup phone, the one she always rolled her eyes about, and the small, red notebook where I used to write our anniversary letters. She never read them. I know that now. The last one was still sealed in its envelope, tucked under the coffee table drawer, unread for 3 months. The apartment didn't feel like mine anymore. Honestly, I don't know if it ever did. It felt like something she curated, like one of her vision boards come to life. All cream-colored throw pillows, glass vases no one filled, and candles we never lit unless her friends were coming over. There was nothing me in it, except maybe the broken Nintendo controller in the junk drawer and the tear in the armrest she always said she'd fix. Spoiler, she didn't. I left everything exactly as she'd last seen it. The bedroom door half open, the dishes clean, the bottle of wine from last night sitting on the counter, half drunk and accusatory. And I left no note, no message, no passive-aggressive sticky note on the fridge. Just silence. Because that was louder. I didn't go far. I rented a room 2 cities over under a temporary name. A week earlier, that would have sounded insane. Now it felt necessary. I needed space. Distance. Somewhere I could watch the fallout unfold. Not from the inside, but like a spectator at a slow-motion car crash. The thing about betrayal is this. It doesn't hit like a baseball bat to the face. It seeps. Like cold water into your socks. Like the smell of something burning 2 rooms away. You know it's coming. You smell it. Feel it. Taste it. Long before the fire ever reaches you. And I'd been smelling smoke for months. I just kept pretending it was incense. At around noon, I got the first clue that she was back online. My phone buzzed 3 times in under a minute. Not from her. From the banks. She tried to access the shared savings. Password reset request. Denied. Then another. Attempt to log in from an unrecognized device. Blocked. Then finally, her text. Ren? Hey, I think someone messed with the accounts. I can't access anything. Can you check? I stared at the message like it had come from a stranger. There was no warmth. No miss you. No how are you. No acknowledgement that she'd been posting her spiritual honeymoon with Colt while I was folding her laundry and erasing my name from our lease agreements. I didn't reply. 15 minutes later, another one. I'm serious. Everything's weird. Where are you? That one, I took a screenshot of. Just for the archives. Just so when I look back one day, I'll remember the exact moment she realized I wasn't where she left me. I logged into our smart home app, disconnected all her devices, reset the passwords, turned off the living room lights remotely just for dramatic effect. I didn't know if she was back in the apartment yet, but it felt symbolic. Then I posted the photo. Just one. The hoodie. My hoodie. The one she wore on Colt's balcony. I posted it on my own burner Instagram, the one she didn't know I had, with the caption, "Funny how some things fit better when they're yours." I didn't tag her. I didn't need to. Our mutual friends would see it. Her coworkers. The ones who always said I was lucky to have her. The ones who followed her stories like she was some lifestyle influencer. Let them watch this chapter unfold. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to fight for someone who packed my hoodie and gave it to another man like it was a souvenir. She chose to leave, but I made sure she came back to nothing. No access. No home. No fallback plan. Just consequences. And then, as she called. For the first time since she left, my screen lit up with her face. I stared at it, watching the countdown on the screen for 3, 2. I didn't pick up. She could leave a message after the beep. The missed call from Layla didn't shake me, but the voicemail that followed did. She sounded frantic, like someone chasing a train they were sure would wait for them. Her voice cracked halfway through. "Renly, please call me back. Something's not right. I think someone's been in the apartment. My account's locked, the lights went off randomly, the router won't connect, and..." Then silence. The message cut out mid-sentence. Part of me wanted to feel vindicated. That should have been the satisfying moment. But it wasn't. It just made my stomach twist deeper. Because it wasn't enough. Not after what I found next. It started with a ding on my old work tablet, the one I hadn't touched in months. For some reason, it was still synced to the shared Smart Hub account. I opened it out of boredom, just to snoop around the activity logs, see what she was trying to access. But there was a notification waiting. A new voice memo. It wasn't from Layla. It was from Colt. I almost didn't click it. But of course I did. The audio was muffled, like it had been recorded on accident. At first, all I heard were footsteps and wind. Then a woman's laugh, not Layla's, but it was close. Followed by Colt's voice, low and cocky, saying, "She doesn't suspect a thing. By the time he realizes, she'll already be mine. And I'll make sure he looks like the one who pushed her away." Then laughter. Her voice again, this time definitely Layla. "God, that's so evil." "No, baby. It's strategic." I paused the file. I replayed it 3 times. At first, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Then I realized it wasn't just a love affair. It was a setup, a psychological takedown. They weren't just cheating on me. They were crafting a version of reality where I was the villain, the bitter, jealous husband who pushed her into another man's arms, the unstable one who drove her away. And she was going to run with it. Publicly. It wasn't a retreat. It was a stage. I could already see it. The Instagram captions, the girl power hashtags, the vague references to toxic masculinity and self-healing, and the YouTube vlog where she'd stare into the camera and say things like, "Sometimes love has to hurt to evolve." Colt would be standing just off camera, shirtless, probably holding an acoustic guitar. That was the plan. Until I found that memo. And suddenly, I had proof. It was like finding a trapdoor under the house you thought was built on bedrock. I stared at the wall for a long time, then started recording everything. My screen, the logs, the audio. I emailed it to myself 3 different ways. I created backups. I uploaded it to a burner Google Drive. I wasn't going to confront her yet. No, not like that. Because she was still flying home. And she didn't know I was gone. She didn't know I had heard the truth. She didn't know the game had flipped. But I knew someone who needed to hear that voice memo before anyone else. Her sister, Jordan. The only member of her family who ever liked me. The one who once drunkenly told me at a New Year's party, "You're the only sane man she's ever dated." She was blunt. She was brutal. But she was loyal to the truth. So I sent the audio to Jordan. No context. No subject line. Just the file. And 20 minutes later, she called. Not messaged. Called. "Renly," she said, her voice shaking. "Please tell me this is real. Please tell me I'm not losing my mind." "It's real," I said. She was silent for a long time. Then, "You need to get in front of this. You don't know what she's about to do." "What do you mean?" I asked. There was a pause. Then Jordan whispered, "She's already recording a video." Jordan didn't even hang up before she started texting me screenshots. Her fingers must have been flying. Layla had already begun teasing her comeback content online. A blurry black and white photo of herself looking out a hotel window, captioned with one word: awakening. That post had over 1,000 likes in 2 hours. The next one was a boomerang of her sipping wine in a robe, with a voiceover she must have recorded earlier that morning. In it, she said, "Sometimes, walking away isn't giving up. It's finally choosing yourself. I'll be sharing everything soon." I laughed out loud. Not bitterly. No, it was a real laugh. Because this woman, who just 48 hours ago was barefoot on a stranger's balcony wearing my hoodie, was now preparing to pitch her own betrayal like it was personal growth. But here's the thing about betrayal that no one tells you. It's only effective when it's airtight. And hers had cracks. The voice memo I found. That was just the beginning. I'd forgotten how meticulous I used to be. When I loved her, I documented things without even realizing it. Dates, receipts, conversations. Even our texts were backed up automatically. And in those texts were the exact messages where I asked her not to go on the trip and where she mocked me for being dramatic. You want to build a case? Build it with timestamps. So while she was busy recording her heartbreak monologue, I was editing my own video. It wasn't flashy. No music. No jump cuts. Just screen recordings and narration. My voice, calm, dry, exhausted. I explained the timeline. The requests I made. The trip she went on. The photos she posted. The voice memo. I didn't speculate. I didn't insult her. I simply laid it out, piece by piece, and let the viewer do the math. Jordan helped me upload it. We didn't publish it publicly. Not yet. We just shared it to one private group, the one Layla's in. A tight-knit digital branding circle she's been part of for years. Influencers, creators, podcasters, all the people she was going to lean on to spread her new narrative. And within an hour of posting it, the silence hit. She stopped posting. She went dark. Then, a private message came in from one of the group admins. Someone Layla had once called her internet twin. It said, "Renly, I don't know you well, but I've been on the receiving end of a fake story before. Thank you for telling yours. We see you." That broke me more than anything else had. Because for once, someone saw me. Not the spineless background husband. Not the ungrateful man. But the person who tried. The one who begged her to stay. The one who gave everything and still got turned into the villain in someone else's origin story. I didn't reply. I just shut the laptop and stared at the ceiling of the motel room I was still holed up in. My whole life, I'd been the quiet one. The gentle one. The guy who apologizes when someone bumps into him. I wasn't built for revenge. But this wasn't revenge. It was correction. And that night, just past 2 a.m., I got an alert from my email. Layla had tried to log into one of my old cloud archives. The one I used to store old drafts of our wedding vows. She entered the wrong password 5 times and triggered a lockout. Then she called. I watched the screen light up again, her contact photo still the same. Her smiling under a string of fairy lights on our anniversary. The picture I refused to delete, even when I knew I should have. This time, I answered. Her voice cracked immediately. "Ren, what did you do?" I didn't say anything. "You made me look like a monster," she whispered. I finally spoke. "No, Layla. You did that. I just stopped hiding it." She breathed hard through the speaker, like she was trying not to cry or scream. Then she said something that caught me completely off guard. "He doesn't even love me, Renly. You think he does, but he doesn't. He just wanted to win." There it was. The mask slipping. The cracks spreading. "You made your choice," I said. "Now live in it." And then I hung up. Because the story wasn't hers anymore. It was mine. I thought things might settle after that call. I thought maybe she'd vanish into the quiet, lick her wounds, and start over. I didn't expect her to apologize. Layla wasn't built that way. But I thought, maybe, just maybe, she'd stop the performance. She didn't. Instead, I got dragged into his show. It started with a message from an unfamiliar number. No name, no profile picture. Just one text. "You made a mistake airing it out like that." No context. No punctuation. Just that. I knew who it was before I even checked the area code. Colt. The shirtless philosopher. The man who once introduced himself at a rooftop party by telling me my aura looked anxious. I didn't respond. 5 minutes later, another message came through. This time, a video link. Not a public one, private. Dropbox. Encrypted. Against every instinct in my body, I clicked it. The video was short. Maybe 30 seconds. Shot vertically on a phone. Colt was sitting on my bed, shirt off, his signature smug grin in full form. Layla wasn't in the frame, but I recognized the painting on the wall behind him. It was hers. Her graduation gift from her aunt. It used to hang in our hallway. That alone was enough to set my teeth grinding. But then he spoke. Slowly. Deliberately. I'm not the bad guy, Renly. She wanted this. You know it. She was done with you long before she left. Pause. But if you want to keep playing chess, just remember, I don't lose. Not in business. Not in relationships. And definitely not in image. He winked. Smiled again. Enjoy the collapse, man. You earned it. Then the screen cut to black. I stared at the laptop for a long time. My jaw clenched so tight I could hear it creak. It wasn't just a taunt. It was a threat. A promise. He knew exactly what he was doing. Laying the groundwork for his counter-narrative. He didn't want to win Layla. He wanted to erase me. But what Colt didn't understand, what he'd never understand, was that I hadn't been fighting to get her back. I wasn't looking for closure. I was looking for clarity. And he just gave it to me. I forwarded the video to Jordan without a word. She replied within 3 minutes. Run, you need to see something. Right now? Don't ask questions. She sent me a zip file. When I opened it, I expected screenshots. Maybe more messages. What I got instead was a document. A contract. Between Colt and a content branding agency. Layla's branding agency. It outlined a collaborative rebranding project, where Colt would soft launch his image transformation from business consultant to wellness-forward content strategist, and Layla would guide and document the process via immersive, emotionally driven content. It was dated before the retreat, before the Instagram posts, before she even told me she was leaving. They'd planned everything. The romance, the betrayal, the heartbreak posts, the rebrand. It was manufactured chaos. I had always assumed the worst thing Layla did was cheat. But no, the worst thing she did was script the whole thing. It wasn't about love. It was about optics. And I realized, then, that the man she married, me, was never really part of her story. I was just a placeholder until her next character arc could begin. Until she had someone shinier to pose beside. Someone louder. Someone monetizable. But here's the thing about people like Layla and Colt. They build stories for a living. And stories, no matter how curated, always leave something out. I started digging. I remembered Colt once bragged about his vulnerability funnel. His words, not mine. He said it's how he converts followers into customers. That people don't buy programs, they buy breakdowns. So I searched. Turns out, he'd done this before. 2 women. 2 separate image rehabilitation arcs, launched in the past 5 years. One ended with a deleted podcast, the other with a mental health hiatus that quietly swept a lawsuit under the rug. This wasn't new for him. He just found someone desperate enough to believe she was the lead, when really, she was just another launch pad. I compiled everything. The contract, his video, his past scandals. I backed it up and dropped it into a locked archive with one button, publish. But I didn't click it. Not yet, because I had one final move left. And I wasn't going to waste it with an upload. I was going to deliver it in person. It was almost midnight when I pulled into the parking garage beneath our building. I hadn't been home in over a week, but everything felt exactly the same. Like the world had been holding its breath while we played out this sick little performance from 2 separate stages. I didn't go up right away. I sat in the car with the engine off, watching the rearview mirror like a man waiting for a ghost. The idea of seeing her again, of being face to face in the space we once shared, made my throat feel tight. But I had to. Not for revenge. Not even for closure anymore. I just needed to see what she looked like when she realized the script had been flipped. I didn't tell her I was coming. I didn't need to. She was already in the apartment. I could see the lights on through the curtains from the parking lot. That used to be the signal that dinner was ready, or that she'd lit one of those overpriced candles she never let me blow out. Tonight, it meant something else. She was back in our space, probably barefoot, pretending none of it had happened. I walked in quietly. Didn't knock. Didn't call out. I used my key. At first, the hallway was empty. The living room smelled like perfume and nervous tension. She was in the kitchen. I could hear the clinking of glass. Maybe she was drinking. Maybe she was rehearsing what she'd say when I inevitably came home, overreacting. But when she turned and saw me standing in the doorway, she dropped the glass. It shattered on the tile. Her eyes went wide. Her lips parted, but no words came out. For once, she was speechless. I didn't flinch. I didn't move toward her. I just stared. She spoke first. Renly, what are you doing here? I shrugged like I was at the grocery store, browsing produce. I live here, I said. At least I used to. Or did Colt change the locks already? She winced at the name. He's not here, she stammered. He left. Things that's complicated. I raised an eyebrow. Complicated. Right. That's what betrayal usually is when the monetization plan fails. She looked away, hugging herself, like the cold had suddenly found her. I noticed she wasn't wearing the ring. Not that I expected her to be, but something about the naked finger made the moment feel more final than I was ready for. I never meant for it to happen like this, she whispered. You mean with contracts? With cameras? With hashtags? I took a step closer. You didn't just cheat, Layla. You cast me. She blinked. Hard. I could see the tears forming, but I didn't care. Not anymore. You used me as a character in your story, I continued. And you forgot that sometimes characters fight back. I was unhappy, she said finally. You were always quiet. Always small. Like I had to be the one carrying the light. And Colt made you feel seen, right? I said, nodding slowly. Until he didn't. Until the audience turned. Until the story didn't test well. That's when the knock came at the door. 3 sharp taps. Layla jumped, her eyes darting between me and the entrance like she wasn't sure which version of her life was about to enter. I already knew. I opened the door. And there stood Jordan, her sister, phone in hand, face like stone. Layla's mouth fell open. What is she doing here? Jordan didn't wait for an invitation. She stepped in, holding her phone like a weapon. I just came from Colt's place, she said calmly. Layla's knees buckled slightly. She leaned against the kitchen counter. I wanted to hear it from him, Jordan continued. Whether this was all a game to him. And guess what? Silence. He didn't deny it. Layla looked like she was about to vomit. But Jordan wasn't done. He said, and I quote, she was a good phase. Pretty. Marketable. A little delusional. The sound Layla made was something between a gasp and a sob. You gave him everything, Jordan said. You burned your marriage, your credibility, your name, for a man who saw you as content fodder. Layla turned to me then, eyes wide, face pale. Renly, I didn't know. I swear I didn't. But I didn't want to hear it. Because in that moment, watching her break down in the very space she once posed in like a magazine spread, I realized something. I didn't hate her. I didn't even love her. I pitied her. She built her entire identity around being admired. But the one person she wanted validation from had already moved on. And the one person who actually loved her? She tried to turn him into a villain on camera. But I wasn't her villain anymore. I was just the guy walking out, quietly, finally, and completely free. I didn't sleep in the apartment that night. After Jordan left and Layla finally stopped crying long enough to sit in stunned silence, I picked up my bag, the one I'd packed days earlier, and walked to the door. She asked me where I was going. I'm going somewhere where I don't have to be someone I'm not, I said. She didn't try to stop me. I got into my car and drove until the city lights became small and forgettable in the rearview mirror. I didn't have a plan, not really. Just a destination. The cabin her dad used to own in the Berkshires. The one she hated because it had no Wi-Fi and the beds were too squeaky. But I always loved it. There was no noise. No performance. Just trees and quiet, and the sound of your own breath when the fire dies down. I hadn't been there in 3 years. I figured the place would be dusty and falling apart, kind of like me. But when I walked in, something surprised me. It felt clean. Not physically, but spiritually. Like the ghosts I'd been carrying all this time hadn't made the trip. I stayed there for 3 days. I didn't post. I didn't message anyone. I read books I hadn't touched in years. I listened to music that used to make me feel like myself. I cooked simple meals and burnt half of them. I watched the sun rise through fogged windows and wrote in the margins of my old notebooks. I stopped thinking about Layla, or Colt, or what they were telling the internet. I started thinking about who I was before all of this. Before I became someone small, someone background in someone else's highlight reel. And for the first time in a long time, I started to like that person again. On the 4th day, my phone buzzed. An email from a nonprofit I'd applied to months ago and forgot about. A digital literacy organization looking for someone to help build community platforms. They'd reviewed my application. They wanted to talk. And just like that, I had a direction again. Not out of spite, not out of anger, just forward. I met with them the next week. It went well. I started freelancing for them shortly after, just a few hours a week at first, then more. It felt good. Not glamorous. Not share-worthy. But real. I found a new apartment near the coast, smaller, quieter mine. I bought mismatched furniture from thrift stores and painted one of the walls navy blue just because I could. I never heard from Layla again. Not directly. I saw once, months later, that she'd quietly taken down all her retreat content. No more hashtags. No more moody reels. Just a few vague posts about learning to forgive yourself and moving with grace. Colt disappeared entirely. I think his latest rebrand flopped harder than either of them expected. Jordan and I still talk sometimes. Not often, but enough. She sent me a message recently. You look like yourself again in that last photo. I'm glad you made it out. And I realized. I did. I made it out. Not as a winner. Not as some triumphant hero. But as a man who remembered who he was. A man who stopped waiting for someone to save him from the quiet, and instead, made peace with it. I sit on my balcony most evenings now. No show. No script. Just me, my thoughts, and the steady sound of the ocean breathing in the distance. And sometimes, I think about how it all began. A bikini picture. A best friend. A broken vow. But that wasn't the end. It was just the part of the story where I finally stepped out of the background and became the main character in my own life.